Welcome to this week's Tips and Tricks. I'm Joseph Ayers. Last week in episode 79, Matt and Derek explored how we shot the video for a Videcast opening animation. Now we're going to walk through the post-production. But first, let's take a quick look at the footage that Matt and Derek created. So now for the fun part, creating the animation. We'll be using three applications: a non-linear editing application such as Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro, a vector-based illustration program such as Adobe Illustrator, and an effects or animation keyframe-based software like Motion, After Effects, or Flash. So let's jump right in. Cropping the video. I'm working in Final Cut Pro, but your software should have parallel features. So I've imported my footage and placed it on the timeline. Double clicking on the video, I go up to the Motion tab and choose Crop. Adjusting the sliders, I crop out the unwanted clutter from one side of Matt and then the other. Now, when I play it back, I have a nice clean sequence that's ready to export. Exporting from Final Cut Pro. From the File menu, I choose Export using QuickTime Conversion. From the Format menu, I scroll down to Image Sequence. Clicking on Options, I'll take a quick look at my settings. There are many file formats to choose from. TIFF, JPEGs, or Photoshop files would all work fine for what I'm doing, so I'll just stick with JPEGs. Choosing your frames per second is a trade-off. The less frames per second, the quicker the animation process will go, but will result in a less fluid final product. Now I'll name the file Running Man and export to a new folder. As you can see, I have a folder of JPEGs titled Running Man 001 through Running Man 228. Now I'm ready to turn these raster-based JPEG files into vector-based AI files. Setting Adobe Illustrator presets. Right-clicking on the first JPEG, I'll open it up in Adobe Illustrator CS3. Making sure the JPEG is selected, I click on the button to the right of the Live Trace button and choose Tracing Options. First, I'll turn on Preview so I can see what I'm doing, and we can see Matt become a silhouette in the bottom corner. Now I'm going to play with the threshold slider until the glare off of Matt's shoe disappears. Next, I'll check on the Ignore White option. This is important. Otherwise, each file will import with the white background. Now I'll save the preset as Running Man 5. Then I hit the Trace button and then Expand. Now I'm ready to save, which I will do so in a new folder. Normally, you'd have to open up each JPEGs and trace using your new preset. But if you've got Adobe Bridge, there's a much better way. Opening up Bridge, I select the files I want to convert and go to the Tools menu on top and choose Illustrator, Live Trace, and then my preset Running Man 5. Changing the document profile to basic RGB, I then hit the Choose button and select my destination folder and then hit OK. Now I can go goof off for a while as Bridge does its thing. Importing files into Flash. In Flash, we can see I've already got my background animation set up. From the File menu, I choose Import, Import to Library, select my files, and then hit Import to Library. In the Import options, I'll leave them all at default and hit enter. Now I've got all my images imported into my library, which I've organized into a folder. As we can see here, I have my AI or Adobe Illustrator files, Running Man 001 to Running Man 228. Creating a movie clip. Right-clicking in the library palette, I select New Symbol and make sure Movie Clip is highlighted under Type. I name the clip and close the dialog box. Flash automatically puts you into a new timeline, the movie clip timeline. As we can see up top, we're working in Running Man clip. In the timeline, I'll click and drag to select frames 1 through 228. Then hit the F6 key to create a blank keyframe in each frame. Going back to frame 1, I grab the first AI file and drag it onto the stage. One of the great things about working in a movie clip is that it starts a new timeline, so the current frame, displayed here as frame 1, matches the file name, Running Man 001. With the first image placed, I'll drag from the rulers to create guidelines. I'm targeting Matt's hips here, which is his center of gravity. His head and feet will move about, but his hips will pretty much stay static. Advancing to frame 2 on the timeline, I drag Running Man 002 onto the stage and using my arrow keys, position it. Now on the timeline, I can shuttle between frames 1 and 2 and adjust positioning accordingly depending on the effect that I want.